Everyone, welcome back to Cheddar's Opening Bell. At least 52 people were arrested yesterday, according to D.C. police. 26 of those arrests happened on Capitol grounds, and 14 police officers were injured, and at least 4 people died. U.S. Capitol Police are conducting a review of the riots and security response. Joining us to break this down is attorney Patrice Sulton, who's the advisor to the D.C. Council and founder of the D.C. Justice Lab. Thank you so much for taking the time here on the day with us, Patrice. Storming the Capitol, threatening lawmakers. What kind of legal repercussions could these people face?
Well, the people who were arrested can be criminally charged. We have a number of local laws and federal laws that prohibit the kind of threats, weapon possession, trespass, and destruction of property that we saw yesterday. But it's a very small number of people who are arrested compared to the peaceful protests we saw during the inauguration in 2017, by contrast, where hundreds of people were kettled and arrested without any evidence of engaging in this kind of destructive behavior.
And so in terms of what these proceedings could look like, we do know that there's a heavy technological component, I should say, that's being leveraged to try and understand where there were, like this image, people who were clearly entering into the Capitol building. There are so many different violations. Where will the police start with their prioritization?
Well, I think it's unlikely to see a lot of investigation of people who weren't arrested on site yesterday. We did see the use of video evidence during the inauguration protests to sort of explain what had happened in each of the cases that were actually charged. But the likelihood that they will use this technology to try to find people outside of the 52 who were arrested, I think is pretty unlikely.
And so we already do know that there are more investigative bodies that are going to be coming into this as well. If you can compare and contrast the action that we saw, as you brought up at the top of this conversation, over the summer, as there were police responding to Black Lives Matter anti-racism protests, versus the display yesterday, where ultimately I think it's left a lot of us asking the question, where were the police?
Yeah, I mean, the disparity between how police in DC handle and treat people who live here, people of color, and the way that people were treated yesterday when they engaged in what can only be described as terrorism here in our city can't be overstated. The search warrants that they get to look in Black people's homes for drugs every single day are not what the kind of investigation that I expect we'll see going forward in this case. We know where some of the people who were at the Capitol are staying. We know where some of their cars are parked. Are they out getting search warrants for those cars and hotel rooms today? Probably not. Are they at Superior Court getting additional drug warrants? Probably, because that's what they do every day of the year. And so it's not just a difference in how they're policing protests and riotous behavior in the city. It's how they're policing every single offense and their entire approach to how they protect and serve or don't.
What legal implication does the tag, the label of a domestic terrorist, have additionally in these proceedings as we move forward?
I think people give undue weight to the labeling of domestic terror. The real issue at the heart of our criminal law is what penalties attach, right? And we already have significant penalties that can be levied for each of these different kinds of offenses, and that wasn't done yesterday. It's my understanding that only 3 people were charged with weapon offenses, and the other offenses are low-level curfew violation, unlawful entry, which is what we call trespass here, and really minor conduct. And so I think that we should be focusing more on what the actual penalties, prison time, fines, and other kinds of punishment are, as opposed to what we want to call people and label them and how we want their conviction to show on their record.
Understood. There's also been talk about invoking the 25th Amendment. Patrice, do you think there are legal grounds to do so?
Well, I think a lot of legal scholars who are weighing in on this are doing their best to make an educated guess, but we don't have some huge body of case law telling us how Section 4 would be interpreted by the courts. one sort of key question, I think, at the top of my mind is the temporal requirement here. When we talk about the president's inability to serve in office, would the court look at his conduct just this week and the immediate state of events, or would we be able to look at 4 years of evidence of unfitness for office, and how that would be weighed is really unclear.
All right, we do know just within the hour, U.S. Capitol Police Chief saying that Capitol Police are going to conduct a review of Wednesday's assault on the Capitol building, including security planning, policies, and procedures. We appreciate the time breaking this down with us. Attorney Patrice Sulton, who's the advisor to the D.C. Council and founder of the D.C. Justice Lab.